Right, so that's the sounds of Nyasha David with Moyo Moti. Wonderful stuff. Brilliant. And it takes the time to 6 after 6. Welcome to the Deep Dive. My name is Leekay. I'm with you until 9:30. Yes, you heard right. I'm with you until 9:30 because I'm going to be doing Issues Paninya again. We did it last week and we're doing it again tonight. Tonight we speak about domestic violence as we now get into the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So we look at that 8:30 to 9:30. But just to run you through what's going to happen now, of course, this is the Hive. And tonight I'm pretty excited. Haven't seen this man in a long time. We have Jonah Mungoshi on the show tonight until 7. So let's make use of him as we look at business and mentorship. At 7 o'clock, we get into HIV today. I will be with Dr. Tich Nyamdaya of EGPAF, and we look at pediatric HIV. And then, of course, we get to discuss a few things between that time and 8:30, where we slide into Issues Panenyaya. Let me get into the show tonight and welcome Mukoma Jonah. Good evening, Makadi. How you doing?
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you once again. It's been a while. The last time I saw you, you were still in Mutare. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It has been.
And I'm glad to see that you're still brilliant, bright, shining, and despite the challenges, you seem to be soldiering on, and that is the spirit.
It's our purpose, Mukoma.
Definitely.
We were put here for a purpose. So
definitely. You're speaking to the converted. You're speaking to the choir.
Of course.
I'm passionate about purpose because purpose drives everything.
Absolutely.
And when you harness the power of purpose, when you know your purpose, when you know the reason why you were created, then you cannot fail because this is why you were created.
Absolutely.
And you're no longer competing against any person. It's just you developing your potential to reach the maximum capacity that you can. So, yes, purpose is of utmost importance. It's of earth-shattering importance.
Wow, earth-shattering. So remember, you can be part of this conversation by getting on to 0719 100 404. That's our WhatsApp platform. We are live on Facebook as well. So get in touch and also send your comments. There is Capitalk 104 FM. As we speak to Jonah Mungoshi, a very powerful man indeed. I'm sure Maton's watching. But of course, we want to. What we do on the show, Mkoma, is we try and speak to people who have who are thinking of entering into entrepreneurship or are already into entrepreneurship. And we did this because we felt, and it's a fact, that a lot of people are getting into that now. Because, of course, the stifled job market that's out there, a lot of people have resorted to that. But we want to make sure that people do it correctly.
Exactly.
That's what we want to do.
I'm with you 100%.
So that's what we do on the show. It's called The Hive, and we want to welcome you. Tonight we want to look at, I know you've been doing a very great program that we've been following since the days we met in Mutare, and I've seen you on social media, and so we said, can I get this man? When I tried to speak to you about 2 weeks ago, you said, I'm still tied up.
Yes.
So I'm so happy that you're here tonight.
Thank you.
I know somebody will walk away with something tonight.
That's my aim.
Let's get into it.
Whenever I am presenting or I'm delivering a presentation, whether it be live on radio, via social media, my aim is to make sure that whoever is listening will take at least one action as a result of what I've shared that they wouldn't have taken if they hadn't listened. So if you're listening now, let's agree that you will aim to take at least one lesson out of what I'm sharing and apply it in your life. That's what makes the difference.
Absolutely.
There's some people who are obsessed with going to motivational talks and inspirational literature, and it's become like a drug. They're like, yes. But then you look at their lives, they're not applying none of the principles that they are learning. And for me, that is a waste.
I like the way you say yes. So we want to get into this. It's 10 after 6 now. We want to make the best of our time. So we're looking at mentorship, which is what you have been doing.
Yes.
And business.
Yes.
How do these two meet? What's the relationship between mentorship and getting into business?
Right. So mentorship in general, without necessarily applying it specifically to business or to entrepreneurship, is about hand-holding someone, assisting them on the journey from being someone who's trying out all the way up to becoming an expert. With mentorship, you are actually taking your life experiences, your strength that is comprising of your talent, your knowledge, your skill, your expertise, and you're helping somebody chart their own path, but guiding them along the way. Because there are a number of pitfalls that one can get into. So you find a lot of organizations now, whether they be profit making or international organizations, even United Nations organizations, they are big on mentorship. Why? Because they've seen that it produces results. Your rate of growth is faster when there's someone to show you the way and to use the wisdom they've gathered, so that you don't, they say, as a foolish person learns from their own mistakes, a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. So if you can learn from other people's mistakes, then you're a wise person, and your journey towards expertise is accelerated. So that's what expertise is. But now when we apply it to business specifically, you find that statistically, and this is backed by my own experience, I would say probably 8 out of 10 new businesses fail in the first 2 years. Right. So it's a very high rate of failure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that those failures are fatal or permanent. A lot of people who initially fail go on to try something else and something else until they succeed. But what we have learned is that when you learn from somebody who has walked the distance, it helps you to have a more realistic view of your business, of your idea, and to adopt strategies that have got a higher probability of working. So the person who mentors you, if it's a good mentor, then they raise your chances of succeeding earlier than you would if you were just trying it out on your own. So for me, that is important. And with the program I've been working on, which is called Youth Entrepreneurs Program, for the past 4 years, we have been going around the country to all 10 provinces. We advertise, we get young people in the ages 18 up to 35 who are interested to apply. They could be starting a business, they could be running an existing business, but what we seek to do is to accelerate their growth, because we are focused on developing what we call growth-oriented businesses. These are not survivalist where you're just getting hand to mouth and just eking out a living. We want you to grow. We want you to employ somebody else. You talked about the rate of unemployment. Where is that employment going to come from? It will come from the businesses, and most of the businesses are being started by young people, because Zimbabwe is a young country. The majority of our people are young. Somebody was saying the youth might be 60% of Africa, but they're 100% of the future. So yes, you might not be young and listening to this. It still applies to you, but it's particularly relevant to the young people, especially for the program that I've been working on. So yes, there is a strong link between mentorship and business. Your chances, your probability of succeeding when you have a good mentor are higher.
Great. I'm going to put two thoughts together here.
Yep.
The first one, if you allow me, because I want you to do more of the talking tonight. But when you raise the issue of age of the program that you're doing, you said 18 to 35.
35, yes.
Right. I would like to throw in something there. I'm over 35 now. And I see a lot of these programs, anywhere you go, scholarships and whatnot, they end at 35. So I want to speak to someone who's below 35 right now to make the best of their age.
Exactly.
Because I'm 5 years above that already.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's
I look at these opportunities in Koma, and I say, if these opportunities also presented them, they were probably there, but I missed them. But if you are below 35 now, go on the internet, make use of it in the right way. Ask people who know. Call Capitalk, call the radio station and say, "Kunema opportunity up," before you go beyond 35, because a lot of these are being availed to people below 35.
Definitely. That is very important. And in fact, if there are young people who are listening right now, I want you to be aware that if you're young, if you are not married, if you don't yet have a family, your capacity to move is much greater because you are not restricted, right? Unfortunately, you find what tends to happen is that when we are 18, we want to act 25. We want to act 30. And yet, this is the time when we've got the highest level of energy. In fact, if you're listening to me right now, it doesn't matter, and that applies to you too.
Okay.
Right now, you are younger than you'll ever be.
Okay.
In fact, what time is it now? Is it like 5 minutes since we started? You're 5 minutes older than you were. So what I'm saying is the amount of energy you can harness now, the level of focus you can have now will only get less and less as you get older. So it is important to take advantage of the circumstances that you find yourself in at any point.
Wow.
So even if you're above 35, you are younger now than you'll ever be in your life. So getting back to what you're saying, I just want to emphasize that don't feel discouraged because you're over 35 and there's so many other programs.
Yeah.
What I found out is that whatever we focus on is magnified. There are opportunities even for people who are above 35. And if you start looking for them, you will find them. I always give this example to people that, after I got married, way back, something happened and my wife fell pregnant. And I started to notice there's so many pregnant women. I'd be walking around and say, "Ooh, that's a big one. She's about to pop." And I would say, "Oh, I wonder what the expected date of delivery is on that one. Oh, that one looks nicer than ours." Oh, and I'll see baby shops. Doesn't mean these things were not there. They were always there. But the point is, what was uppermost in my mind, I call it top of mind awareness. So even if you are 50 and you really focus on business, on entrepreneurship, they say that success happens when preparation meets opportunity. And the first preparation you do is inside of you. So if you are looking for business, you are looking for opportunities, you will see as the days go by, you start to notice them. Not that they haven't been there, but your mind has been filtering them out. Okay, I get carried away. Let's get back to the script.
Now, I'm looking at the importance of mentorship. So the two things that I said I'm going to put together is last week we had Tony Friday. And what we decided to talk about is mental health. Because as we get into entrepreneurship, we also want entrepreneurs to understand that they have got an obligation, a responsibility to the people who work for them, and their own health as well.
Exactly.
But it looks like in the past 2-3 years, it is like a new thing, mental wellness and mental health. But I just think
True.
mentorship. Again in Zimbabwe, it's hitting us like it's a new thing. Is it a new thing? Is it a new phenomenon for me to be held?
Yeah, no, not quite. You see, you'll find that it has always existed, even if people didn't know the word mentor or mentorship. But there's always been relationships where one person who is acting almost like a student or is an apprentice to another person, and they're handheld. It could be done formally or informally. It could be done in social circles. But I think what is new is the realization that this can be done in a systematic way. And when it's applied in a systematic way, we can get reasonably predictable results. So it's not new, but I think the stage at which it's being applied in organizations and companies, etc., is such that there's a realization that it can be structured. And when it's structured, it can be done systematically. And when it's done systematically, we can have reasonably predictable results.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And you also get what I would call best practice, where you say, now that we have systematized this, research experience has shown this works, this doesn't work. So let's be guided by best practice. We know this works. So when we do this, it's more scientific rather than thumb-sucking. You know that when I engage in a conversation of mentorship, these are guidelines. This is how I should do it. This is how I help someone to reach a solution rather than just giving them a solution on a silver platter, because I will not always be there. It's got to be their solution. They own it, but I'm helping by asking the right questions, by challenging their thinking, by looking at the basis. What are the assumptions they are making that is helping them to reach this conclusion?
Fantastic. We've got Jonah Mungoshi in the studio, and we are talking mentorship versus business. How do these two meet? So now we got people's attention.
I hope so.
We know that. I definitely know that. When you get people's attention, and then we get to find out who we are talking to. I didn't want us to start by introducing Jonah Mungoshi. I didn't want to do that. We got people's attention. Wimbai Israel says, "Good evening. How do we join that group?" She's talking about the program that you were speaking about.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it.
Wellington
Stay tuned.
Tawonga Bangure says, "Great discussion." So we got people's attention now.
Definitely.
So
at least those two.
Yeah. So now I want to find out, Jonah, how did you get into business or management consultants and mentorship? Who is Jonah Mungoshi?
Okay. Jonah Mungoshi was born on the 2nd of April in 1968 in the best city in Zimbabwe, which is Gweru. Went to Bumburu Primary School, Fletcher High School, Thornhill High School, University of Zimbabwe. When Jonah was in A-level, he realized that he was going to fail, so he started doing a subject that he hadn't done in lower six. He did it in upper six, and he managed to pass it. So he managed to sneak into the University of Zimbabwe. He was given business studies, and he fell in love with computers. So when he graduated, he had 2 degrees, one on paper, one in his head. The one on paper was business studies. The one in his head was IT. So he started working in IT initially for Anglo American for 6 months, and then he worked at ZDB, Zimbabwe Development Bank, now called IDBZ, Infrastructure Development Bank of Zimbabwe, for 5.5 years, and then left that to join CBZ as head of IT, and he was head of IT for 5 years, and then for the last 2 years he was deputy executive director of marketing and sales. He started speaking. He joined Toastmasters. He won the national championship in Zimbabwe. He won the national championship in Southern Africa. He went to the US, won what is called the rest of the world championship for all the countries outside US and Canada, and then he took part in the world championship. He came third, and when he did this, he realized that his calling was really in helping people discover their potential and creating wealth. And since 2003 August, he left formal employment, and he has been a full-time consultant, motivational speaker, business consultant, and a trainer.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, he's married and has 5 children. And
That reminds me of a story that you always share. Every time I meet you, you share.
Yeah.
There's a time you spoke for how long?
I spoke for 36 hours non-stop in an attempt to break the Guinness World Record. So you see, I
36
realized
hours.
that you're restricting me to an hour. That's why I had to go really fast on the introduction.
And well
because
done on
it's
that
not
one.
that important.
No, Anderspakwa. Thank you. Okay, so that's Jonah Mungoshi.
Yes. So we can get back to business. I
Yes,
don't want
now
to
let's
talk
get
much.
back to business.
I see.
There's something behind this man, and it's much more than the degrees and the experience and whatnot. There's something in you that we always envy and say, let's bring this man onto the podium. Okay, so entrepreneurship and mentorship. It looks like when we look at all these, because there's so many of these university degrees that have entrepreneurship added into them, but it doesn't look like the issue of mentorship is alive in all those curriculums. Should they be? Why don't we have them within those curriculums?
We don't have them because it's very difficult. It's hard work. It's challenging. It doesn't lend itself easily to the educational institutions we have. If you look at the structure of the degree programs, because so often what we do is like an event. So the event is you're writing an exam, you pass your first semester, first year, you pass your second semester, you pass your final exam, and you graduate. Whereas if you look at mentorship, it is not an event, it's a process. And the process requires commitment of time. And if you look at the time that it requires for you to build somebody up, you know, I mean, you're a father, right? Or you believe you're a father. They say a man says these are my maybes, a woman says these are my babies. You're a father, right? You saw how long it took.
One's my maybe.
My maybes. You saw how long it took. That's why I say men will go to heaven, because we have faith. We have faith. These are my children. So listen. Okay. You saw how long did it take your children to walk? Nobody really measures that. Most parents don't, right? And you don't say, you know, this kid has tried 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. Oh, let's give up. He'll never walk. No, you keep encouraging. And mentorship is a little bit like that. So when you look at what is needed to really develop someone, it doesn't lend itself well to the structures of the educational systems we have. It is difficult to do. There are various attempts, but the most successful models I found are within an organization where somebody junior is given a senior person to work with, and the senior person then mentors that young person. So because they are both working for the organization, they are being paid for the time that the mentor is mentoring the junior person, and the junior person is being mentored. It's part of work. It's easy to fit it into the structure. But it is important. It is essential. And I know there are organizations around that have got various initiatives of mentoring. But the reason why it is not one of the topmost activities you find in entrepreneurship program is that it's just difficult to do. It is such a pain, but it has got so much benefits.
Great. So, like we said earlier, you have been very active in the CBZ Young Entrepreneurs Program, YEP. Tell us your role and a brief overview of the program.
Right. So, maybe let me start with the beginning. I started with your sister station, Star FM, on a program called The Breeze. And within The Breeze, there's a segment called Shot in the Arm.
Absolutely.
It's a motivational program. So I started on this. I was invited by the 3 ladies who were there. There was Tariro, Ayati, and the soul sister, Grace. Right. So I would bring on the program some of the people we're working with, including young people. So at one point, I brought a very young business person. Now, this child was 9. And
9?
Yes, 9. And it's a girl. And she was running a number of businesses. 9. Okay. Yes. Yeah. One, she was running a beekeeping business. And she was harvesting honey. 2, she was running a vegetable garden. And 3, she was running rabbit rearing. So she was bombarded with questions by people asking. And you can tell the level of mastery by the ability of somebody to answer questions. Wow. Now, here's a 9-year-old who could answer with clarity, with depth, questions related to her businesses. So it just so happened that the then group CEO of CBZ Group was listening to the conversation, driving on his way to Mutare. He immediately phoned his office. He said, I want us to sponsor this program. So as I was walking out of the studio, they called me back. They said, listen, CBZ wants to sponsor the program. Like, hey, so what do we do next? I had no clue what needed to be done, right? But I was guided. So this was the genesis of the year program. So we started on this, and then we engaged in a conversation with CBZ, and they were interested in assisting young people. So we wrote a proposal. We registered a trust. I was working with Shingi Chitsike. I'm still working with him. So Shingi and I are co-founders of the trust. It's called Empowered Life Trust. And we said what we are going to do is to produce a crop of young entrepreneurs who are growth-oriented. These are not survivalists. These are not satisfied with just earning a little bit of money. These are not there to, parade the little wealth they have done and trying to show off and going to Adam and what have you. No. These are people who are dedicated to creating significant investments in this country. So this is what we set out to do. From the word go, we were ambitious. Yeah. And we started off by saying we will go to every province in the country, all 10 provinces. And we started in 2016. Every province we went to, we met with young people. We gave them a whale of a time when they had fun, where they enjoyed, where they shared, where they networked, where they made new contacts, where they got connected to CBZ Holdings, and where we're also assessing their capacity. And would shortlist these until we got the final 10 who would get awards. But everybody learned something along the chain. So we did this in 2016, 2017, 2018, and we've just concluded, part of the main part of the 2019 one. In other words, we are at a point where we have now chosen the top 10. And throughout this time, we have reached over 4,000 young Zimbabweans. Wow. I actually think, arguably, we have one of the most comprehensive databases of real young business people. Not people who just come and say, I want a loan, because these are not coming for loans, but people who are really involved in business. So over the time, we've actually come up with 12 steps, 12 lessons that are introductory lessons for you to get into entrepreneurship. And if you give me a moment, I'll share them, but I can do that later. I notice you've got a question there.
I do have a question because it actually came out of what you said. You said you are nurturing people who are growth oriented instead of being survivalists.
Exactly.
I want you to explain survivalists.
Oh, survivalist. Well, let me give you an example. The other day, I was walking down First Street in Harare. There was a lady who was selling mshonga wamapete wemakonzo wemasvosve unouraya ipapo ipapo. Right. So she'd say this repeatedly. So I went to her and I said, Pamsori, imari. At that point, it was still the dollarization era. I said $1. And then there was a lady seated next to you, selling exactly the same product in exactly the same way. And I said, dollar urukudura. So I went to the other lady and said, Nayambuya, imari. Iyo ya mouths go up. So to me, this is a business without creativity, without innovation, without any plan for growth. It's purely survivalist. Yeah. I get something, I eat, which is fine. You're earning an honest living, but that will not develop our country. So instead, we are saying, as a business, a few things that can show that you're growth oriented. Number one, if you are growth oriented, you actually aim to employ other people. There is a plan to employ other people, because to employ other people is driven by the growth of your business. Number two, you have some plan. Even if it's a very basic plan, you have some plan of some sort, because growth never happens by accident. You don't wake up one morning and go, oh, I'm like Strive. Look, I've got 1,000 employees. It doesn't happen. I don't care what your prophet tells you. It just doesn't happen. Just like you, young man, you married, right?
Yes.
Happily married, I can see. My mind is doing a great job. You didn't just wake up and find you've got a wife lying next to you, did you?
No.
So why should it be different with business? So we are saying, if you're participating in our program, it is a travesty of justice if you don't plan what you're going to do.
All right.
Right. So we also adhere to certain principles. Now, there are certain things that we believe in are not compatible with growth. And one of those is integrity. If you lack integrity in business, you are exposing yourself to significant risk. I know it's become a way of life in Zim to cheat, to steal, to be corrupt. But we are saying that as long as we do that, we are sentencing our country to be a basket case. We are a laughing stock of the world when we are blessed with minerals, when we are endowed with just so much. So these are some of the attributes that we instill in these young people. I can't say that every single one of them adheres to all of these, but I believe it leaves its mark.
Sure.
I believe it leaves its mark.
While you're there, you spoke about integrity. We've seen a lot of companies across the country. You know how we have our mission, values, and integrity is always there somewhere. But while you're there, you spoke about 12 principles. Take us through those.
Right. So these are our 12 lessons. And I'm saying, right, you're saying, I want to start a business. Where do I start? What do I need to do? You don't necessarily have to follow these in a linear, sequential way. But this is a guideline. So this is not scientific mathematical formula, but it's a guideline. And you'll apply it to the extent that it fits into your business. The first lesson is win the inner war. Why do we say win the inner war? Because ultimately, when you face challenges, when you are stressed, when you are depressed, when things are not going your way, the psychological impact is happening nowhere but in your mind. Stress exists in your mind. Ultimately, when you experience failure in business, you branded failure yourself in your mind. So if you can't win the inner war, you will lose the outer war.
Wow.
So that really calls for you to believe in yourself, to be positive about your idea. And sometimes, I even say to people, you need to fake it till you make it. Speak positively about it. Because what you continue to repeatedly say ultimately has an impact on you. You can't go on every single day saying, I'm useless, I'm an idiot, and fail to have that taking an impact in your mind. It affects you. So win the inner war is the first one.
Great.
We together? There are a few things we can do, like gratitude. Gratitude is amazing. Just being grateful, even right now in your life. If you make it a point that every day you sit and you list down the things you're grateful for, it doesn't matter how small they are. Gratitude cannot coexist with misery. And when you think about it, being an entrepreneur, you're actually being a merchant for positivity. You can't run a business successfully when you're pessimistic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, second lesson is live on principle. Live on principle. I'll summarize it in one global, universal principle. No matter what religion you are, no matter what culture, do unto others as you would like them to do unto you.
Great.
If you practice that in business, that's your assurance against all sorts of risks. If you do that with your partners, with your clients, with your stakeholders, and you make sure that you treat another person the way you'd like to be treated. Yeah. No, let me take advantage of this because you're being short-sighted. Because that's what takes us to that situation we don't want to be. Because you know what? Cheating only works when one or two people cheat and everybody else is not cheating. The moment everybody else cheats, everyone loses. That's why you find sometimes, even at a street intersection, when everybody's selfish and they want to go, nobody goes anywhere.
For sure.
And we're all like idiots. Absolute idiots. And I see people shouting at each other, angry. All it takes is a little bit of courtesy. Let this person go through. Yes, maybe your ego has been rubbed the wrong way. Principle. So live on principle is the second one.
Do unto others.
Exactly.
Wow.
Number 3, identify a need. Business is about meeting a need. Sometimes the need that you are meeting is a problem you're solving. So maybe you realize that, people have got limited income and they cannot afford to buy whatever these items in bulk, I will repack them in small packs, maybe it's our own or whatever, and you sell it. It's a need you have identified. It's a problem you're solving. Sometimes the need is not necessarily a problem, right? So perhaps you realize, you know what, in this place, if I was to start some recreational activity. Oh, yes, I was in Kariba recently. And for the first time in my life, I did fishing. We went to this Kariba bream farm. And what they do is when you get in, you pay 60 bond just to get in. And if you want a fishing rod, I think it was 7 bond or something, and then a few bond for the bait. And then you're fishing in a pond. I mean, your chances of not catching a fish are next to nil, fish in a pond. So it was me, my wife, and one of our daughters. And our daughter was the first one to catch a fish. Can you imagine how excited she was? She caught the fish and then I was next. No, my wife was next. And I was like, and then I caught 5 fish. Anyway, to cut a long story short, this is not a problem that's being solved, but there's a need there. A need for this experience. I asked the guy who was there, I said, listen, because they sell you the fish, for you to take them out, you have to pay.
Okay.
Per kilogram. And I said, how does your price compare with the price I'll pay in a supermarket? He says, I don't know. And I don't care. I said, but you could be more expensive. He said, yeah, I could be. And I said, so what's the deal?
Yeah.
He said, the deal is that I'm not competing against the supermarket.
Okay.
Right. I'm not here to sell you fish. I'm selling you an experience. Did
Yeah.
you see what you went through? Did you see the photos you were taking? Now, for that, I know you are paying me for that fish.
Wow.
Whatever I've asked for. And I paid for every single one of them. And when I took them home, I caught this myself. So what am I saying? Finding a need does not necessarily mean solving a problem. Could be something that people aspire to. But that is the third lesson. Let me move a little bit faster. Identify a need. Number 4, design a solution. So you sit down and say, I've seen this need. How can I address this? What can I do? I mean, one of the youngsters in our program is actually working with flies. He's selling maggots. When flies lay their eggs, and then the eggs go through metamorphosis and they become larvae. Now that larva is delicious meal for goats, for chickens, etc. So he has imported flies all the way from South Africa. They're called black soldier flies.
I think he was actually on the show.
Serious?
On the agricultural show.
Fantastic. So it could be him, it could be another. Yeah, he is. Yeah. So, right. Here is somebody who has realized that there's a need for stock feed, and he has, through his research or whatever, identified, hey, I could do this as a solution. He's designed a solution. So he will look for maybe a structure where he can keep the flies and how they lay their eggs, how they collect the waste material. Yeah, it's from Bindura. He was talking about the market where people throw vegetables and they're rotting. Right. So that's it. It's a solution that he has designed. Now, it depends on what business you're into, and what you're cut out for, and what you're passionate about, and what the opportunities are. But anybody can design a solution. It's just putting your mind to how am I going to address this need profitably.
Okay.
Right. So after designing a solution, this is where I go streetwise, right? A lot of people say, sit down, write a business plan, make sure it's detailed, take it to the bank. Nah. Test it. I believe in what I call ready, fire, aim. You get an idea, develop it as quickly as possible so that you can take it to market. Why is that important? Because so often as entrepreneurs, we're infatuated by our idea. It mesmerizes us. It's sexy, and the more you think about it, the more it seems like it's impossible to fail. How could? Well, tell you what, the market will tell you, will humble you. There's a statement we use on the program. We say, results don't lie. You take your idea into the market might love it, they might not love it, but either way, you get feedback. So you test it on a small scale using minimum capital. Minimum. So normally I say, do what you have where you are, do what you can where you are with what you have. So start with what you have. A lot of people come to me, I've got this brilliant idea, but people won't give me a loan. Of course they won't give you a loan. If you had the money, you wouldn't give yourself a loan, because there's absolutely no assurance. There's no evidence that this is likely to work. So when you test it, you are getting evidence even on a small scale. Even if it's just a small sample of 10, 100 people you've tested it, you get that feedback. And oftentimes, that feedback will help you improve your product.
Critical. We are at number 5. I just want to acknowledge people who are on Facebook. Wimbai Israel says growth-oriented guidance, employ others, have a plan, adhere to certain principles, win the inner war, fake it till you make it. Gratitude cannot coexist with misery. Do unto others. She has caught
she's listening.
Everything.
Oh, fantastic. Tell you what. Can Wimbai give you a number, and I'll just send a small token of appreciation, $10 free airtime. She can send a number, and I'll do it immediately after the program.
But anyway, Ashley Emmanuel says this man enjoys what he does.
Definitely.
Is that true?
Amen. I totally do. And you know, the good thing about it, this is why what we spoke about initially when we talked about purpose. Now, there are a number of ways you can know your purpose. One of the ways you can know your purpose is that you will find that you enjoy immensely what you're doing if you're working within your purpose.
Yeah.
Another one is you lose track of time. I could speak for 36 hours because I was in my prime. I was like a fish in water, right? So this I enjoy. And when you do what you enjoy, your chances of succeeding increase by an exponential factor. So really, I enjoy what I do.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
You can say
Ashley has
anything else. Yeah.
Noticed that.
So Ashley hit the nail on the head. Give us your number. That's another $10 airtime.
What do I do? Oh man. Okay, Eric. Number 6.
Number six is refine it. After you've tested it, you refine it. Here, you need to make sure that you don't become so attached to your idea that you fail to accept reality. The results you're getting, that's reality. People rejecting it, that's reality. People telling you that, please change this into that, that's reality. So you need a certain amount of humility. And it's painful. I'm telling you, it's painful. Because getting into business is a huge psychological decision. And when you've gotten into business or you're starting something, you love your idea. You're absolutely infatuated with your idea. And when somebody comes and tells you, you know what, this is not too good, it hurts. Probably it hurts more than being dumped by your girlfriend. Right? You married? Yeah, imagine being dumped by your girlfriend, right? As young men here in the studio.
Ray's in the studio.
Ray's in the studio, yeah.
He's got a passion that I will share with you after.
Serious?
And I'm always telling him to pursue it.
He should.
He's into technical stuff. And
Ray, how old are you?
He's
23. You're a baby. You need to make it a point that you don't waste it.
You know what his passion is?
You don't waste it.
You know what his passion is?
Cooking. Serious? Wow.
Asano Ziyajima gets food. But his real passion.
We can have the electronic cook or something. No, but for shizzle, you need to pursue it. You must pursue it. Right. So let's move on.
Yeah.
You need to refine it. Refining your idea is now, there's a decision you've got to make. Sometimes you realize, based on testing it, that this is not going to work. It's going to fly.
Sure.
I am killing this idea. I'm terminating it. I'll start a new one. When I was at university many, many years ago, probably before you were born, young man, Ray, I came up with this idea with a friend of mine that we would make this. There are these bags that people used to put around their waist.
To my pouch bag.
Bag. And at that point, nobody else was doing it. So we had the idea, and then we contacted somebody who was making satchel bags for university students with the university logo on it. And then he imported material, and it took so long. By the time it landed, so many other people were selling them. And ours were costing like twice as much just to break even. So we had to trash the idea. And I ended up with so many of those pouches. And by that time, they're actually getting out of fashion. And people would laugh at you. I mean, I know one musician who stuck to it, local musician, who would still wear it, maybe even up to this day. Apparently, they're coming back in fashion. What am I saying? When you test it, you get results. The results might not be what you like. If you realize this idea is not going to fly, you might need to terminate it and start something else. But assuming it works, you refine it. After refining it, you go to one of my favorite stages in the 12 steps. Number 7. It's a stage that I call attack. You attack the market. Now, this is about nothing else but selling. Selling is different from marketing. Marketing, you're telling people, this is a nice thing. Selling is you're saying, listen, baby, right, I'm the man for you, and I'm asking you out. Will you go out with me, yes or no? Okay, Ray? Ray or Roy?
Ray.
Because there is rejection when it comes to selling. So when you're in the attack mode, you are selling relentlessly. And when you sell, it's an intense period. So you can set yourself maybe say 90 days of intensity.
All right.
Where every contact you have, every person you know, either you're selling to them or they're giving you a contact that you will go to. And this requires utmost courage. You know, people say that public speaking is scary. Most people are more afraid of death than public speaking. I don't buy that, by the way. But tell you what, people are more scared of selling than public speaking because of rejection. Rejection hurts. But you have to sell. You have to sell. For me, the most important skill by far for any entrepreneur to have is the skill to sell. And the only way to do it is like learning how to swim. You have to dive into the water. You have to go face your fear and sell. Face rejection, review it, refine your method, and sell.
While we are there, we also had a question that came onto our WhatsApp platform. Remember, our WhatsApp platform is 0719 100 404. Very easy to catch. 100 404. That's what you need to remember. So P. Kennedy says, how do you motivate your sales staff in this economy?
How do you motivate yourself?
Yeah, your sales.
Oh, your sales staff.
Yeah.
Well, one of the biggest motivators for sales staff is to pay them based on commission. That's a big motivator. But it's not enough. It's not enough because being someone who relies on the power of words, I know what it can do to encourage someone. So you need to encourage your staff. Right. One, you can roll up your sleeves and go out selling with them. Right. There's nothing that is as effective in a leader as leading by example. So you go out there because oftentimes, hey, this thing is easy to sell, just go and sell it. But you can't even sell yourself, right? So one is to lead by example. We say that be the change you want to see in your company or in your organization. You must model so that it's monkey see, monkey do. Number two, you need to encourage people. How do you encourage people? You speak positivity into them. Let me give you a quick story. How are we doing on time? I talk too much.
12 minutes to go.
No, serious?
I promise.
What happened to the time? But this is important. Way back when I was at university, I was a member of an organization called ISEC. ISEC is a French acronym for International Association of Students in Business and Economics. I went to Cote d'Ivoire and I presented a bid to host the annual African Congress of the ISEC organization. So I came back and I was the chairman of the AFCO committee. That's what they called it. And we had a totally dysfunctional committee. We were losing time. Our mandate was to fundraise and to just plan for the logistics. We were not getting anywhere. And even as the chairman, I was doing a pathetic job. So we got to a point where everything was really at a standstill and we're running out of time. I think we had like 2 months left up to the date. So the national president, his name was Fungai O'Brien, invited us to a meeting. And we thought, right, this is time for us to tell him the truth. I'll tell him this one is doing this one is doing that. We came there with our weapons. And you know what he did? The first 1 hour, he spoke to each one of us, praising the qualities that we possessed that had made him appoint us to this committee. So he said, Jonah, I appreciate that you've got the power to convince. You've got conviction about this. You went to Cote d'Ivoire. You fought against other countries and your bid was successful. Yvonne, I believe you are a technical person. You understand logistics more than anybody else in the team. Jerry, you're like this. Petty, you're like this. All the members of the team. And after 1 hour, he said, given the strength that you guys have, I have absolutely no doubt, we as the national executive have no doubt that you guys will today come up with a working plan that will ensure that we host this conference successfully. Now, that is encouragement. And I'm saying if you want to motivate your team, you have to be encouraging. Find out the strengths that they have, notice and name, bring out those strengths and challenge them. You need to challenge them and show them that, people live up, or either you get people to live up to your expectation of them or to live down and prove you're right. You call me a dog, now I'll show you dog.
Jonah, 10 minutes to
10
go.
minutes to
So,
go.
you know what's happening here?
Yeah.
Is we got so many questions coming through. Somebody says, how do you motivate an off-form athlete? So I'm not going to give you a chance to respond to that now.
All right. Well, that's for another day. Let me go through the last 5 steps. So we're at step number 7, which is attack.
Yeah.
Step number 8, learn. Now, this is interesting because when we say learn, I'm talking about learning formal education. That's one possibility. Self-education, where you find some topic, you learn it. I mean, we got so much information. Like, if you just need to Google and you can find any topic, including videos on YouTube, etc. I'm talking about learning on the job, where you actually say, I want to learn a certain skill. And you sit down, somebody shows you. Maybe it's programming you want to learn. Maybe it's a physical activity. You want to learn welding. Right. But most importantly, all these are important, but most importantly, learn from your experience. You've mounted an attack. You've had $1 million worth of feedback from the market. If you don't take time to reflect, to sit and say, from what I did, what worked, write it down. What didn't work, write it down. What do I need to change? You'll find that your pain will have been wasted. You want to profit from pain. I mentioned before that selling is scary. And having been brave enough to sell, take time to reflect. A lot of entrepreneurs miss this step. And you keep doing the same things like a dog chasing its tail. Learn. So after learning, we move on to the next one. Number 9 is organize. Now, this is where I'm saying do all those funny things, right? Come up with a plan, because now you have a basis for preparing a plan. Before you didn't.
Sure.
It was all just assumptions. Now your assumptions are informed by practical experience, by reality. So you organize. Organize could mean coming up with a plan, structuring your business, maybe even looking at getting help, whether the help is part-time or full-time, or somebody that you just pay specifically for certain tasks, but you need to organize.
Now I'm counting down time.
You're counting down time.
Yes.
So you organize. And then number 10, partner. Partner with somebody. Find partners. I believe in what I call accountability partnerships.
Okay.
People that you can work with, who are not necessarily part of your business, but who you share your plans with. But these are not haters, or what I call dream stealers.
All right.
Who will just discourage you. You want people who are going somewhere.
Sure.
I mean, if you partner with people who are not going somewhere. So partners, it's broad, but I've just touched one aspect of partnership. Number 11, serve. Whatever you do, you are serving. You need to give back to the community.
Great.
I believe that a real measure of wealth is the extent to which you can help other people. So you can have somebody who's got a lot of money but be poor, because they're so stingy, they cannot extend generosity. They cannot extend, even if it's time that you're giving. Serve. Do something to help other people.
Okay.
You'll find that you grow significant when you do that. And number 12, have a passion for growth. The amount of money you're going to make is directly proportional to the numbers of people that you are helping, to the numbers of people whose lives you are touching, to the numbers of people whose lives you're adding value to the numbers of people whose problems you're solving, to the numbers of people whose needs you are meeting. So I challenge you, it is selfish of you, if you've got a solution that works, to restrict it to a small number of people. That is utmost selfishness. So imagine, maybe you started a cell phone company and you say, no, I'll only serve 100 people. I mean, that's utmost selfishness. Serve 1,000, 100,000, 1,000,000, and make 1,000,000 in the process, right? You deserve it, because you're touching the lives of many people. You're enriching many people. So this is the step number 12. You need to grow. Have a passion for growth. You need to scale up. I could say more on this, but in the time we have, I'll leave it at that.
Jonah, and we had discussed this show before.
Yes.
We discussed it, but you've just taken out everything but replaced it with so much more. You've given it so much more value than we had discussed before. Thank you for that. You told me about gratitude.
Yeah.
I'm starting already. Thank you so much for the direction that you've taken.
No, thank you, Leander. Thank you for inviting me, because I have a purpose in life. My purpose is to help people discover their potential and create wealth. So this I will do any time of the day or night. If
Great.
I can reach somebody and help them discover their God-given talents, develop their potential, and create wealth, then I know I have done something great in front of my Creator, because that's what I was created to do. That's the reason why I'm here.
Great.
So thank you.
So, Wimbai is actually in Seychelles, so you can't send
No airtime. I don't know the Netflix in Seychelles.
But we got another.
But
if Ashley,
if Wimbai nominates somebody in Zim and gives me a number that she wants me to,
what she would really love for you to do, though, is to share details on how they can become a part of YEP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of YEP, here's the thing. The honest truth is that for this year, we already had applications. We already took the people through the program, and we had a number of new aspects, such as the boot camp. We had these youngsters coming to pitch their businesses at a boot camp. So for this year, you cannot be part of YEP. However, let me give you our YEP call center number so that you get details and you'll know when we are recruiting, etc.
Sure.
So if you've got a pen and paper, or whatever gadget, take this number 0782 489 653. Let me repeat that number 0782 489 653. That's the Youth Entrepreneurs Program call center number. And there's a young lady called Dorothy who will respond to whatever you send to that number. If you want to get in touch with me for whatever reason, my number is 0773 056 736. So I'll repeat that 0773 056 736. I sometimes get inundated. So if I don't respond, I'm apologizing in advance. I'm not promising that I'll respond to every person who sends me a message. I've got over 10,000 people in my mailing list. So
Okay.
I will no. I will strive to respond, but I apologize if I don't respond.
I will bring you back here, and then you can always respond. But Jonah, there's something that we wanted to touch on. We've got 3 minutes to go.
Right.
You have been mentoring. You have been dealing with young people. I just wanted to find out maybe the top two. I'm sure there's more, but the top 2 or top 3 of the most vulnerable areas that these businesses are falling. You did say 8 out of 10 do fall in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
What are some of the areas that you would like to say, please look out for this as you start your business or as you're 1.5 years into your business? What are some of the most vulnerable areas?
Okay. I think the first area I would highlight is just having a business model that is not viable. Sometimes it's a well thought out idea. And I can give you an example very quickly. When I was at university, I was always interested in business. I was studying business anyway. Not by choice, but that's what I got. I wanted to study computers, but I couldn't. So anyway, we got together with some guys. One of our friends worked for Forestry Commission. It was called Forestry Commission then. And he realized that there were lots of timber, trees that were cut down. And you could get this for literally nothing. And at that point, Railways of Zimbabwe were struggling to deliver coal to farmers most of the farms were owned by commercial white farmers, and they would use coal to process their tobacco, to cure their tobacco. So he came back and said, listen guys, we've got a business opportunity. And we did the calculations and we realized that each one of us would walk out of this deal with $150,000. And we went and celebrated. Okay, I didn't drink, but the other guys drank champagne. And then when we came back and then we did the actual final analysis, we realized that the cost of transporting this timber made it unviable. So you can have a good idea, but it's just not viable. A lot of ideas are not viable. It's not your fault, right? It's the school fees that you pay. The second problem that people face is that when they encounter initial success, they get carried away.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So sometimes you get people looking at their inflows as profit. It's like, yes, I've made it. I have 1,000. I say to people, somebody comes, I need a $10,000 loan. I said, what is the highest amount you've ever managed? $100. I said, 10,000 is likely to destroy you because money is like a muscle. If I give you 100 kilograms and the biggest weight you have lifted is 10 kilograms, it'll destroy you. Yeah. So there's need for that inner resilience to be able to manage not only failure, but success.
Okay.
A lot of businesses that fail will have experienced an initial burst of success, but they just don't take it in a level-headed manner.
Wow. Jonah, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's been a 10-minute hour, if I can call it that. It's been fantastic. Thank you very much for coming through. The show is The Hive, and we'll be sure to get you back onto the show.
I would love to come back. Thanks a lot, and thank you all listeners. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
Fantastic. Listening to Capital 100.4 FM. Hardy's Heartbeat. Time now, 7 p.m. Time for the news with Gwen.
News on Capitalk 100.4 FM. Hardy's Heartbeat.
The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe